Good evening everybody and welcome to round 4 of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated, as we visit Canadian Tire Motorsports Park here tonight for round 4 of our season. It's a sprint round, 15-minute sprint race coming up very, very shortly, with a 30-minute feature a little bit later on. Open wheel racing not particularly synonymous with this venue in the real world. Last series of notes to come here was Formula 1 in 1977. That was quite a long time ago. This time around we're taking the Super Formula lights around this venue. What should be a good couple of races, we'll find out. But Sophie Nalir and Reece Gardner and commentary for you this afternoon with George Clark behind the cameras. And good to have you with us again, Reece. It's one of those circuits, I think, that's, not synonymous with open wheel racing at all. But we'll see how we go tonight. These are the championship standings just quickly before we get to that. With one drop week applied, Kieran Potter leads by a long way in front of Jackson Rihanna, Brodie McConkey, Tom Donoghue, who are all quite close, and Danny Davison as well. Rounding out the top 10, Ryan Ball, Craig Edwards, Thomas Hinds, Ryan Bell and Anthony Bate. Yeah, it's not synonymous with open wheel racing, Reece, but I do like this circuit actually, and I think it could be quite well suited to these cars.
Yes, it does have plenty of open wheel history. It hosted the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix on and off throughout the 1960s and 1970s before the race moved full-time to Montreal. So there is some open wheel history at this place, but it is mostly long past. It is a fast and flowing circuit that's often a bit more suitable for sports car racing and stock car racing now, but that's not going to stop us in the sim world.
Well, no, indeed, and that is the good thing. Qualifying is very quickly over, and so let's get on with the 15-minute opening race. Sebastian Eskandari has taken pole, surprisingly, not at the head of this evening. Danny Davison just alongside, 16 thousandths behind. Craig Edwards and Kieran Potter then on row 2 ahead of Thomas Searle, who's on pole in the silver class and within a tenth of pole overall. Scott Bartine alongside him with Jackson Rihanna and Mark Healy then on row 4, the rivals from season 3 last year. Brodie McConkey and Sam Mort round out the top 10. Tom Donoghue's 11th in front of Anthony Bate with Alex Stevens and Jack Monroe on row 7. Sam Light-Ellers and Angus Milne then on 8 ahead of Madeline McGee and Alexi Watson, who's 3rd in the silver class. Giulio Sanesi and Ryan Bell then round out the top 20 with Leif Hardy and Chris Farrow on the first all-silver row in the field, 11th row that is. Jet Saragi and Thomas Hinds on row 12 in front of Miguel Costa-Texera and Tom McInnes. Dion O'Neill and Chris Little then on row 14 in front of Matthew Vince and Marcus Konitska, who round out the top 30. And those at the back of the field include Dan Ackland, who's been moved to silver. Who is in silver, was very fast in practice for whatever reason. Also back there, Brennan Bonacci, Ryan Borg, and Tristan McLaren didn't set a time, so he will be at the back of the field, but he is on the grid. Jet Saragi will have a pit lane start for the sprint race due to licence points, and so he will not be from the 23rd place indeed, in this race. Jack Monroe has been moved to gold, as you may have noticed there throughout that rundown. He will start from 14th place, and that is all of the driver updates since the last round of this championship. After this round, of course, we'll be at the halfway mark, which makes this even more interesting, given the fact we'll be on the way back, indeed, in this season. Let's see how we go tonight, though, for round 4 here from Mosport in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship. We are underway with Sebastian Eskandari challenged by Danny Davison down in towards turn 1 immediately here, and it is a good start for Eskandari. He gets into the lead in front of Davison. Then it's Craig Edwards who's going to try and infiltrate that top 2 with Kieran Potter there as well. He gets down the inside, and the championship leader by some margin, Kieran Potter, gets down the inside into 3rd place.
Very clean start from most of the field. It's helped by the fact that this track has plenty of open corners in the initial part of the lap, but I do see Angus Milne dropping down the order. He's all the way at the back now, and it would appear he has come a cropper of the high speeds and very narrow margins for error at this place. Through Moss then, the slowest corner on this racetrack, and very important to get the exit out there, but it looks like there's a bunch of drivers further back in the field having problems with that corner. I see Ryan Bell, Leith Hardy, Chris Farrow, Giuliano Sanese, all dropping positions. Seems like there's been a bit of a traffic jam there. It looks like Tom Donoghue in 11th has gotten a mechanical black flag. There's been some contact somewhere.
Yeah, he's one of our top contenders in the championship after 3 rounds, but unfortunately has got a meatball after the opening lap of the race. Side by side through the final corners of the opening lap here for Davison and Potter, and this is just allowing Sebastian Eskandari to get away. And again, the advantage for Max Booster having so many drivers up towards the front is that if they're 1 and 2, then you have to challenge second place to get to the battle for the race win, and by the time you've done that, the race leader is off and away, and that's exactly what Sebastian Eskandari is doing. They're still side by side here. They were side by side on the back straight in the previous lap. They're still doing it now. Here comes Davison on the inside again though for Moss, and surely he'll have it now as Craig Edwards tries to follow through. Then next in line is Thomas Searle, who's leading the silver class by a long way. Davison's off through Moss corner, and also Scott Bartine goes for a spin there coming out of the hairpin.
Oh, that's tough there for Danny Davison. He's stuck just off the racing line on the left side of the circuit. He has to wait for practically the whole field to go by to get rolling again. That leaves Eskandari in the lead by 2 seconds over Kieran Potter, and now Craig Edwards, who's trying to make the move around the outside of Thomas Searle, becomes the inside for the penultimate corner, but then Searle has the inside for the last turn once more. You're going to be seeing this practically all night, Ewan. This is a track where you can hold the outside line very easily in these cars.
Absolutely, we've seen it already tonight. You can hold it there for a very, very long time. In towards turn 2 they go as we go back and have a look at some replays of the opening lap. This is Sam Lighthowler just being clipped there through Moss, and so that was the beginning of it. That was the beginning of it. That's Seneze heading it up into the air there briefly, by the way, and then all hell breaks loose after that. So that was the very start of it. You mentioned the opening flowing corners. Well, it comes to an abrupt end at Moss corner, and that's where the trouble was on lap 1.
Yeah, indeed, and see the bumps that Thomas Searle had to go over there beyond the curb. That's what sent Danny Davison around. I went back and checked on my end. It was a solo error from the driver of car number 75. So, unfortunately, he only has himself to blame for that crash, and it leaves these guys to battle over the runner-up position. Eskandari still out in front, and he holds the fastest lap of the race for the moment, but Craig Edwards appears to have broken free of Mark Hilly and will start chasing down Kieran Potter again. Brodie McConkey in 6th at the moment, 3 positions gained in the opening laps, but this is only a short sprint. We got a 2-race format tonight, Ewan. This is the shorter of the 2 races, and my timing's only telling me about 7 laps remaining.
Yeah, it's not going to be very many laps, even at a short circuit like this one. So, 15-minute opening race, and then we'll go into a bit of a longer qualifying session. It will be open for everybody to drive in all on the same track at the same time, and that will give us the grid for the 30-minute feature race coming up a little bit later on. Here's another replay of what happened to Danny Davison through Adam Moss corner. He has just lost that himself, and that's a rare error, you'd say, from Danny Davison, but he'll be absolutely furious with himself, I think, for that. A kind of unforced error, you'd say, as well.
Yeah, pushing a little bit too hard on the exit, which, I totally understand. I've driven plenty of laps around this place as Healy moves past Edwards into 3rd. You really have to get on the power early out of Moss, because you got that entire back straightaway to lose momentum on. Speaking of losing momentum, Kieran Potter is pushing the limits there out of the last corner too. Eskandari will be loving this. His gap just keeps growing.
I think this race is as good as one for Sebastian Eskandari now, who, by the way, is down in 16th place in the standings with the drop score. That's 153 points behind Kieran Potter. Now, that is quite a gap to make up, and he's only going to make 10 points up. Less than that, about 5 points up in this race here, so reduced points for a reduced race. So he does really need some of the others to get past, but Hilly and Edwards will have ambitions of their own, not to help Eskandari, of course, but to get closer in the championship themselves. Hilly's only on 80 points in the corrected drop score, Edwards on 120, so they're 20 points either side of Sebastian Eskandari at the moment. Amazing that Hilly's been at 2 more rounds than Eskandari and still has 20 less points, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Side by side means in time for Tristan McLaren, that is. Can't quite believe he's made his way through half the field in 5 minutes, but he has, and he's on the inside into these final corners. Just in behind, Miguel Costa-Texeira and Dion O'Neill through the final corners, and they will sort it out as well. And McLaren's going to have the door slammed in his face by Matthew Vince. But what a great drive from McLaren. He is going to lose a place there, but he's up 17 places, maybe down to 16 now as Chris Little gets passed in towards turn 1.
Looks like the Turbo Bros cars are really getting involved in the action here today in this lower section of the midfield. Chris Little at the moment chasing Tristan McLaren as they desperately try and find a little bit of real estate coming into turn 3. News for Jack Munro there, unfortunately given a 10-second time penalty by race control for some contact on the first lap. I'm sure there's a few incidents that race control are currently working their way through. Oh, dearie me. Looks like there's been another problem for late hours, and Hinz is dropping down the order too.
Yeah, he's had to tow back to pit lane, so they both, I think that's a 2-car incident. They were pretty much on their own, so I think it's just those two involved, but they've both dropped down the field rapidly here, and considering the limited amount of drivers who get points in these opening sprint races, and the fact it doesn't give out the grid for the next race, I don't think we'll be seeing them again in race number 1, if I were to guess. This is what happened. Hinz is the one in second behind Lighthouse, who clips the curb. Oh, and Linz just has no choice but to ramp over the back of him. That is a real unfortunate one for Thomas Hinz there especially.
Yeah, it's all about reaction times there, because, you know, muscle memory kicks in. You're on the power. You want to get the speed down the back straight, but if someone's right in front of you and spins, you don't really have time to react. Your brain is already doing what your subconscious dictates. So unfortunate there for the both of them, but I don't think race control are going to look any further at that. Back to the battle, sorry, for second place. Kieran Potter still actually managing to keep the gap pretty consistent. He and Healy have not lost any more time to Sebastian Eskandari, and they appear to be, if anything, trading spots down the back stretch. Looks like 6 laps to go according to my timing when they crossed the line. It was lying to me before, so you never know. Sebastian Eskandari might not be completely out of the woods yet.
Well, he does have a little bit, you know, well, half this race indeed to see out, but personally, I think he is going to be okay. Last lap, he was 2 tenths slower, but 2 tenths a lap for what, another 6 laps? That's only 8 tenths of a second of a 2.8 second gap. So I think he should be fine, barring an error. This is the driver, though, he's trying to catch. Kieran Potter has had a brilliant start to the season. There isn't a round so far this season where he hasn't finished first in one of the important sessions, either pole position in 3 of the races, 3 of the 4 races so far, and winning 3 of the 4 races as well. So he's had a very, very good season, and that's why he's leading the championship by such a margin. When you apply the drop points, it's 74 points after just 3 rounds. Can he finish second here, though, and really cement that dominance even further here as he runs through on the outside line here of Mark Hilly? Will he be able to get past? Not clear anyway, in towards the final 3 corners. Hilly will have to go around the outside for the second to last corner, though, and that will not give him the inside for the final turn. In terms of other championship contenders, by the way, not sure I've mentioned this. Rihanna! Rihanna, yeah, go on.
Yeah, round he goes out of the final corner. It looks like that was contact with one of the Pro Line cars, it looked like. We might have to see that again.
Yeah, sorry, weird. I was just looking for Rihanna there as he did that, so that's weird. But reason would be he's already a lap down and a long way down the field. That's why I was looking for him, because he's second place. Excuse me, he's second place in the championship at the moment. He hasn't really had a bad score yet, but this will be a 0-point score from the opening race unless he finishes on the podium in the feature race. This is going to become his drop score, but luckily for him, he's got some quite good drops to come, although not as good, I suspect, as some of the better point scores from tonight. We'll see. Marcos Konitska goes for a spin, meantime, through Moss Corner, just off the racing line, helpfully for those others. And Thomas Hinz got back out onto the circuit. I said earlier that he wouldn't bother, but well, he looks like he might as well not have bothered, because he's struggling at the moment, getting back going again.
Yeah, he is. I just went back and looked at the incident for Jackson Rihanna, by the way. It looks like it was another solo error. Thomas Searle was alongside him through the final corner, but Rihanna kicked the rear end out all on his own. He was on a compromised line, staying narrow through there. Well, We'll turn our attention back to the battle for the runner-up position. The gap for the leads extended now to over 3 seconds for Sebastian Eskandari. And Mark Healy has lost touch with Kieran Potter a little. Craig Edwards stands a chance of getting onto the podium in race 1 here.
Tristan McLaren has gone off the road briefly and dropped down a couple of positions as well down the back of the field, and Brendan Bonacci's off with him now as well. Wonder whether they've been making contact, and that's why they've both dropped down at the moment. But yeah, that is unfortunate for especially Tristan McLaren, who'd made his way up the field so well in this race. Matthew Vince is now the biggest move forward, by the way. 16 places up to 13th. Here comes Mark Healy, 3.5 minutes to go, and he's back in front of Kieran Potter again. But how is this going to get resolved? Because they keep trading positions on the way down towards the final 3 corners, towards turn 8, which is the first of those big sweepers. How are they going to resolve this? Is it going to be a case of whoever leads onto the last lap is going to get eaten up on the last lap? We'll see in a couple of laps' time.
We certainly will, but you can see just how strong the slipstream is around here. The average speeds around Mosport are some of the highest of most circuits in iRacing outside of ovals. So you'll always see a good run being made out of these corners, but once the downforce comes back onto the front wing, once you start experiencing all the drag, and if you're on a compromised line as a result of going side by side, then you hit a metaphorical wall and you can't make any further progress forward. I think that's what Craig Edwards is thinking about there. Backed off a little bit, maybe a slight mistake through Moss, but he'll be getting the full benefit of the slipstream now, and he won't be losing touch with Mark Healy and Kieran Potter anytime soon. But if he wants to get anything done, it has to be soon, because it looks like Eskandari's coming across the line to start roughly the penultimate lap of the race.
It's going to be very close, yeah, whether it is the penultimate or the third last. 109. Yeah, I think it will be the penultimate indeed. The end of...
going to be tight.
It is going to be quite tight. The end of lap 11 at the moment for Eskandari. His gap, though, 3.5 seconds. And this is a way to return to the series, isn't it? I mean, we're not sure at this stage how many other rounds he might miss, but he won the opening race of the season at Spa. And Craig Edwards has been times dropping down, by the way, from that battle for second.
Yeah, he spun.
Eskandari making his return to the series is getting off on a good foot again. See if he can recover from this championship position, then well, that would be something quite extraordinary.
Yeah, certainly would. I mean, it's the Sebastian Eskandari we've gotten used to seeing. Not the Craig Edwards we're used to seeing, though. A big snap coming out of turn 2. Fortunately, jumped right on the brakes and managed to stay out of trouble for the most part. But he has fallen down to 13th as a result of that. So it just leaves Healy and Potter to fight over the pieces of the podium as Eskandari continues to run a little bit faster than the both of them on the previous laps anyway. That lap, they were running ever so slightly faster, but the gap is too great now to overcome. Eskandari is back to regularly scheduled programming, it seems.
Well, there's cat and mouse going on here between these two. I think Healy wants Potter to go past him and couldn't get him to do it. So we'll watch for the lap time at the end of this lap, because it was actually a personal best from Potter last time round, but not this time, it won't be. Okay, Craig Edwards off again, by the way. He's going to drop down the field here very late on, but has Healy gotten a margin here? Oh, he's gone wide. Look at this. He's trying the cat and mouse game now on Kieran Potter, who doesn't want to go through too quickly. So there's real games happening here between these two battling for second place. Sebastian Eskandari is going to win here. There's no doubt about that, but who's going to finish in second? Healy had a 5% for the second margin, but to be honest, he would have done well to try and keep through Moss Corner, but he's decided to play the cat and mouse game here, side by side. Will it keep him in second place? They're both going to dive into turn 9, and then they're going to give up inside for Healy, and he's going to remain in second place. A great defence from Mark Healy after a bit of cat and mouse on the last lap. Sebastian Eskandari wins on his return to the series, but Mark Healy holds on for second in front of Kieran Potter in a great bit of psychological warfare almost between the two of them. Fantastic racing.
Yeah, great drive in between the two of them. We saw Dion O'Neill, Tom McGuinness, and Leith Hardy crossing the line 3 wide. Unfortunately, 10-second time penalty just coming in there for Brodie McConkey for, once again, no cornering overlap. We're going to be seeing a lot of penalties of that fashion crop up tonight, I am sure. Ryans, Borg, and Bell are still fighting over 26th and 27th, and they're about to come across the line here. We'll be seeing them move on through. Actually, I think they're still roughly waiting for... There they are.
There they are.
Just popping out of the final corner, side by side across the line between the teammates.
Yeah, indeed. And Bell is one of those... Borg, rather. Ryan Borg is also one of those who's got a 10-second penalty along with McConkey, and Jack Monroe as well, who's got a 10-second penalty, although not everything has been investigated in race control just yet. It's Sebastian Eskandari who's won here by 6.1 seconds in front of Mark Hilly and Kieran Potter, and their fantastic... game playing really on the final lap there. Brodie McConkey and Jack Monroe end up 4th and 5th, but they will both drop to probably 16th and 17th, I guess. Thomas Sir will win the silver category in front of Sam Mort, who gets 7th, the gold class driver. Obviously, so is Alex Stevens. Alexei Watson finishes 2nd in the silver class in ninth. Peter Manny McGee rounding out the top 10. Then it's Anthony Bate, who is also on the podium in the silvers. Matthew Vince next ahead of Miguel Costa Texera, Chris Little and Dion O'Neill, top 15. Tom McKinns ahead of Leith Hardy. Next, bit of a gap back to the next group with Scott Bartine. Jet Saragi recovering from a pit lane start to get 19th in the end, ahead of Tom Donahue, who finishes in 20th place. In his worst finish of the season so far. First time he's finished outside the top 8, indeed. Tristan McLaren is 21st, ahead of Danny Davis and Giles Nazy, Dan Ackland and Chris Farrow, the last of the point scorers. Then it is Ryan Borg, whose 10-second penalty doesn't matter, but it will drop in behind Ryan Bell. Craig Edwards was 1 lap down in the end of that race, with Marcus Knitska, Jackson Rihanna, Brennan Bonacci and Angus Milne the same. Sam Allers and Thomas Hinds finished down the order after their incident together through Moss Corner. Well, that's the opening race. Don't go anywhere, because they've still got another half-hour race coming up in a moment. We'll be back in a moment with that second race here from Mosport. Stay with us. We'll be back in a second. Well, welcome back to Mosport for race number 2, coming up very, very shortly. Here from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated. Myself, Ian Leary, and Rhys Gardner in commentary, with George Cook behind the cameras of this broadcast here tonight. Good first race, Rhys, a runaway winner in Sebastian Escandari, but good racing behind that at this circuit. I think what we expected, really, the sort of flowing nature of this, and keeping everybody close, and good racing, especially towards the end of the lap. It's eventually rung true here, I think, and I enjoyed that first 15 minutes. And looking forward to a little bit of a longer race now, with a pit stop coming up as well in race 2.
Yes, 30 minutes going to be ahead of us after this qualifying session is done. Nice cool track temperature, 20 degrees, as it appears there's plenty of clouds that have come over the circuit in between our races. These blimp views get a really good perspective of just how quick this circuit is, and the ground trackside shots as well show you just how hard the drivers are pushing. Mosport is not the widest circuit in the world, but it's wide enough that you can go side by side through almost every single corner, as we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, maybe these cars are small, I don't know, but it does help that there's space so often. I do wonder, though, having said all that, how this qualifying session then changes, because we've got a 10-minute session with open qualifying here, where everybody's allowed to draft off of one another, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty big drafting session here, based on that group we just saw there a moment ago. James Davison started to, or attempted to hang back a little bit here in hopes of some clean air, but I suspect those who were in the slipstream will be the ones to benefit, really.
Yeah, indeed, but as you can see, flat out through the first 2 corners, a tap of the brakes into 4th for turn 3, runs a little bit wide, but that's one of those corners where sometimes the fastest line doesn't always look the fastest. Hardest braking zone on the lap here into Moss. You've got to really manage the elevation change and the way your car's weight shifts around through that corner, and nail that second apex for the run onto the Mario Andretti straightaway. Quite bumpy along this section, and you're just thinking about those final 3 corners. They're basically a giant S-bend where every turn gets a little tighter as you go on. The first of them flat out on entry, maybe a slight lift depending on your car's setup and where you are in a pack, and then nail the left-hand apex and the right-hand. Careful of the curbs on those apexes, they're higher than you think. And a lap of Mosport is over in under 1 minute and 10 seconds in these machines. It's quite scary pace that they pull around here. Yeah,
it is. And very, very close qualifying sessions generally as well, because of the short lap. We saw 5 drivers within a 10th last time, I think, in race 1, and we've currently got 4 within a 10th here as well. Sam Mort through the final couple of turns here, onto the front straight. No purple sectors, what I can see. Personal best, though, across the board. Jack Monroe, though, goes to the top, and Mort goes to 3rd, Brianna to 4th, Bartine to 6th. Lots of improvements happening up and down the field. Thomas Searle surely gets pole there, and by a couple of attempts too. Yeah, nearly a quarter of a second for Thomas Searle, who I can't quite believe is still in the silver class, to be honest with you, but there you go. He's up towards the front at the moment. Chris Little as well, to be fair, up in 3rd place. Good times from some of the silver class drivers. That's a big gap for Searle as well.
Yeah, that's, 2/10 doesn't seem like much, but around a track like this, it's a huge difference. Kieran Potter, though, well, that's something we're used to seeing. 2 provisional pole, and that is the first driver into the 1 minute 8 second bracket for qualifying laps. Ryan Bell driving with his teammate there at Proline Esports, and we'll see what more they can do as they find their way to the final 5 minutes of the session. Still waiting on qualifying times from Chris Farrow, Brendan Bonacci, and Tristan McLaren. All 3 drivers having their fair share of issues. In race number 1 is a little bit of a wide moment there from evidently Kieran Potter. And so Ryan Bell has a big disadvantage here. No slipstream down the back straight.
Yeah, I think it will be a big disadvantage, to be honest. So we'll have to rejoin with his teammates here, which Pole are not short on, to be fair, so they should get reconnected and and get back into the slipstream again, although not a long session of only 10 minutes. Should just mention, well, we've got a moment here in qualifying, by the way, of the changes to the schedule that have happened. Well, the one change to the schedule, indeed, that have happened for the second half of the season. The normal way of things is that we have a sprint race followed by a feature race the following week, and then sprint race the week following that, etc. For example, last week was a feature at Navarra. Next week is still a feature at Monza, but we've actually got a double header feature because the week after that is now a feature at Adelaide, previously scheduled to be a sprint round. I think Tom only wanted us to have a race start at Adelaide once in an evening, and I can't understand that because it's very tight there through the first chicane in the opening lap. So that will be a feature round, 45-minute race there. That will be followed by a Nurburgring Grand Prix sprint round instead. I mean, I can't see it really mattering where these sprint and features happen, but as I say, I think that might be the reasoning, that it's going to be a hairy start at best at Adelaide, and we want to reduce the amount of times we do that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think a fair decision. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the drivers cope with Adelaide when it comes around. It's a circuit that is brutal at the best of times. You're not going to be seeing the sheer speed that these cars are carrying here at Mosport, but the walls will be a lot closer and the curbs will be much larger and more numerous. So into the final 3 minutes of the session, then we're seeing some gradual improvements from drivers. Craig Edwards has gotten up to second. Sebastian Eskandari had a slow start to the qualifying session, but the race one winner has put himself into the back end of the top 10 with his most recent lap, and it appears we're only missing a lap time from Tristan McLaren now. Tom Donoghue making a big improvement there to P17. We'll see if Eskandari improves any further. I think he's a bit too far back for the slipstream here.
He does look a little bit too far back, and he's a long way back in the session as well, down in 10th. That's a little bit of a strained line towards Moss as well. He's regathered it for the late apex, coming now down onto the Mario Andretti straight, which brings them all the way down in towards turn 8. Inexplicably, there's two corners, by the way, on this straight. There's one of them. Anyway, that's North America for you. Coming in towards turn 8, he'll be at pretty much terminal velocity here before turning in. Brody McConkey moves up to first with an 8.8 there, by the way. Davison, though, with a purple's first sector. Can he go any quicker here? It looks like he might be able to. What about his teammate Eskandari as well? That will move him up to second, I think, there. Davison, it will. 92 thousandths behind. Can Eskandari follow? If he'd have been in the slipstream with Davison there, Eskandari would have had a much better chance of improving, but he doesn't as it is. He's all the way down in 13th.
Yeah, this is not a great turnaround here for Eskandari. Does still have 90 seconds remaining in the session, plus whatever time it takes to complete the lap he's on when the timer hits 0. So not entirely over yet, but we're rapidly approaching that crunch point in the session. Jack Munro moves up to 10th, and he'll think that's a pretty nice recovery after his penalty in race number 1. His first round, of course, officially classed as a gold class driver. At the moment, seems like a lot of yellow sectors being set around the place. Kieran Potter makes an improvement, moves back up into second.
Always strong in qualifying, excuse me, Kieran Potter. Worst qualifying before today was second place at the previous round at Navarra. A race, of course, he went on to win. Eskandari does improve, now into the top 5. So that is a late improvement. 40 seconds left in the session, but my goodness, that was needed for Eskandari, because he could have had a very difficult start in the midfield and would have suffered from, I feel like, the Jackson Rihanna problem, I would call it. Although, to be fair, Rihanna for himself is up in 6th place, so not a bad qualifying for him at a race he needs to go well at, because he didn't score anything from the sprint race.
Obviously, at that very corner there that Searle just went through, Rihanna had a spin on the exit. Big improvement from Miguel Costa Texera. Meanwhile, he's just moved up into 7th, and it looks like there's been another driver that's moved up into the top 6 as well. I didn't quite catch who it was, but we're seeing a lot of late improvements here, and that's going to be silver class pole for Texera there. Ryan Bell improves to 3rd, and it looks like the checkered flag has now flown. So McConkey, Potter and Bell we'll be hoping that they are locked in as the top 3. We've still got pretty much everyone else on a lap and with lots of potential to improve.
Davison and Eskandari over the line together do not improve. Good lap from Davison, especially actually that Eskandari not so much, but Davison wasn't bad, but unfortunately he'd already gone better, so that's no improvement. Rihanna has just slipped towards the end of this session, and I don't think he's got an improvement in him at the end here. Let's see, has he got any further places? No, and he's down in 9th. Again, the qualifying coming back to bite him here, as it so often does. Qualified 17th back at the opening round at Spa, if you remember, well, race in which he went on to get the podium. Hasn't qualified better than 8th this season, and I don't think he did in race 1 do any better than that, so his qualifying struggles continue here, but he's at least in the top 10. He will need to race well, though, as I say. If he doesn't get on the podium, then this will become his drop round.
Yeah, indeed it will. And well, these 2 race formats do carry an opportunity to make a recovery, but you still want as consistent a run of results as you can get in a league as competitive as this. Tristan McLaren abandoned his final hot lap attempt, and so looks like with him in, that is the end of the session, and the timer just ticks to 0 now, so we'll be jumping into the race in just a few seconds time. Brodie McConkey sitting on pole then for I think the first time in at least a very long while.
Yeah, we'd need to check how long, but McConkey has been having a good season so far. 2 podiums already to his name, and now a pole position as well. Kieran Potter, the often pole sitter, finishes in 2nd there in that qualifying session. We'll start on the front row. Ryan Bell and Danny Davison were also within a 10th of pole there, with Hilly in 5th place ahead of Craig Edwards, who will hope for a better race too. Sebastian Eskandari down in 7th, somewhat surprisingly, his worst qualifying of the season, although it's only his 3rd session. Miguel Costa Texeira takes pole in the silver class ahead of Jackson Rihanna and Thomas So, who rounds out the top 10. 11th for Alexi Watson, who's 3rd in the silver class in front of Dion O'Neill. Jack Monroe and Anthony Bate on row 7 in front of Samla Alas and Julian Sanese. Jet Saragi will not have to start from the pit lane this time round. He'll start from 17th instead of Sam Moore, with Thomas Hinds and Tom Donahue then rounding out the top 20. Alex Stevens and Scott Bartine on row 11, 22nd for Bartine ahead of Chris Little, and then Matthew Vince. Marcus Knitska and Angus Mill next to Lee Hardy and Ryan Borg. The first silver rose all the way back on row 15 ahead of Tom McInnes and Dan Ackland all the way back there. Madeline McGee, Chris Farrow, Brennan Bonacci and Tristan McLaren round out the field. McLaren setting a tie this time, but still being 34th, so he will have to come through the field from the back. A little bit of a longer race. There will be a pit stop within it as well, but expecting it to fly by in a very similar way to race 1, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm expecting the same thing. You know, the speeds carried around this place, the intensity of the fighting. There was always something going on in race 1, and I'm expecting more of the same here in race 2. Track temperature going down slightly from the qualifying session, so I think there'll be a little more grip available once the tires get heated up, but of course they do have to be careful on the opening lap. Cold tires in general are a tough time, no matter what car you're driving. Around a track like this, though, with so many high-speed, high-load corners, one mistake on cold tires could send you all the way to the back.
Let's come on here from Mosport then, and we are ready to go in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship from Mosport. Race number 2 gets underway, and everybody gets away pretty cleanly here. Brodie McConkey on the way towards turn 1 will keep the lead in front of Kieran Potter, but Ryan Bell challenges for 2nd place. It's Proline Esports 1, 2 and 3 in a way that Max Boost normally mobbed the front. Proline are doing the same now. They're 1, 2 and 3, but Bell gets in front of Potter here. Potter won't mind though. They can re-coordinate that later. Mark Healy in front of Danny Davison meantime for 4th place. He gets up in front. And meantime, McConkey's off the road, just slightly wide, and Ryan Bell's going to take 2 places on the opening lap to lead.
Solid save there from McConkey. Could have been worse. He's going to try and get up the inside of Potter at Moss, but I think half of that is protecting his teammates from the onslaught behind. Mark Healy compromised out of Moss. That's let Danny Davison through, and I think Eskandari's going to try and follow him here. So the Max Boost duo is coming for the Proline trio.
Already a good start for Eskandari. He can make it very good if he gets past Mark Hilly here, who's 3 wide on the outside of Davison and McConkey in towards turn 8. He's going to go for this, although he has to back out in the end. McConkey also does because, Davison does rather, because McConkey had just edged him out there on the outside of turn 8. Down the inside for Eskandari. Meantime, and Mark Hilly is on the outside here. Here comes Edwards and Rihanna. Meantime as well, they're joining in with the silver class leader next in line. That's Rihanna off the road. And in the background, Alexi Watson goes wide as well.
Yeah, looks like they're having an all right time recovering on the grass there, but it all depends on where you're at. Oh, 3 cars going off at once there at turn 2. Mort, Hins and Sinese are both in the barrier hard, and it looks like plenty of damage for all of them. That's the first major incident we've seen this race, but I think anything at all happening at Mosport is major with how on a knife edge everybody is.
Well, indeed, but what a terrible day for Thomas Hins and Sinese, to be fair. He was caught up on lap 1 and race 1 as well. So, terrible day for those, and they are still both off the road. We'll see whether it causes any interruption. Virtual safety cars, by the way, for the rest of this season, rather than a physical safety car. So, Jimmy Peacock has been spared from himself. This is what happened. So, Alexi Watson was the initial one off, and then he rejoined, and then as they try and go past him, there's big contact here. Sinese gets rammed. Oh my goodness me, that's a big accident. Huge coming down towards turn 2. And not much they really could have done about that if you had Sinese there. Got ramped over the top of, I mean, just 3 into turn 2 really, and it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I think if the tyres were a little bit warmer, then maybe they could have done it. But, you know, it's a difficult situation to be in when you've got someone coming back on track alongside you, on the inside of the entry to the corner, no less. It can be very difficult to just make that decision to tap the brakes and get out of it. Eskandari makes his way past Davison, and then he and Healy make contact, and Craig Edwards gets involved. Oh, my Lord, Edwards is upside down. This is disastrous. This is turning into a bit of a demo derby, this race.
And he's got hit on the way past. This is likely to be a safety car now, or a virtual safety car at least. Rihanna is, yeah, look at that. He's on the racing line. He's upside down. So this is, in the past, this has always caused a safety car in FDL competition. Mark Hilly is limping back with a meatball, and everybody's coming in here. Everybody knows the score. So everybody knows what's going on here, and they will all come in. That will, in effect, save Rihanna somewhat, although he will lose a lot of places. Same for Hilly. He will at least be brought to the back end of the field, though. Let's see who gets out first as everybody makes the pit stop. This, because it's so early in the race, this effectively writes off the importance of the pit stop, because everyone will make it now and they won't need to make another one. Bell comes out of the pit lane first, then it's going to be Kieran Potter at second. Eskandari just say, oh, they're side by side. Wow, that was very tight. Very, very tight. And there's going to be an argument between the two about who was out first. Brody McConkey is third ahead of Sebastian Eskandari. Then we go across to Texera, who's in front of Thomas So in the silver class lead. Sam Lightower's Jet Saragi, Anthony Pate and Alexi Watson round out the top 10 as they make it out of the pit lane.
All right, down to a slower speed as you can reasonably manage around this circuit, and a little bit of time to reflect on what the heck just happened. I went back to check the incident. Edwards really couldn't do anything. Both Davison and Hilly were broadside across the circuit ahead of him. And the secondary car that made contact with Edwards when he was already flipped over was Lee Hardy. Everyone else was managing to avoid Edwards, but evidently Hardy couldn't react in time. We're going to get a view of Healy's perspective of all of this. So the change for position between the Max Boost teammates there, and I think Healy realized, I've got a chance to go up the inside of Davison here. He was already compromised, but I don't think Davison was expecting him to be there, and certainly Edwards wasn't expecting that kind of contact either. You could see that there was practically nowhere for him to go. Rihanna getting involved through no fault of his own either.
Yeah, indeed. Well, if we just rewind, I don't know if you saw it at the time, but Hilly did that dive on somebody on an earlier lap as well, and I think it was McConkey into Moss Corner. Might have been the opening lap. As what is Bonacci doing here? He's now leading. Anyway, this is the view that Edwards got, and you just see that he just had no way of avoiding this really. Oh, and just piles in. and no way of knowing that he was going to flip over either onto his roof. Hilly did that to McConkey on the opening, and it did work. So I wonder whether he had a bit of almost false confidence from that, because it was it was the same move again, but disastrous consequences this time round.
Yeah, very disastrous. You sometimes think that going through Moss, the apex is king at that corner. If you have the inside, then you have the advantage. So I understand why Healy dropped into the corner like he did, but clearly Davison was trying to gear up for a late apex there so he could stay in touch with Eskandari after they did the switch. It's just two different intentions, two different problems coalescing in the worst possible way.
Brendan Bonacci thought he was a lap down, and so he's passed the pace car, or the equivalent. And now he's stopped. Oh, no. So Bonacci thought he was a lap down, and now he's going to have to give that back up again. I suspect he might have to go to the end of the line as well. But anyway, we're getting everybody who's still in the race back on the lead lap, or at least everybody apart from Craig Edwards, who is only making his way out now. I'm not sure whether a special waiting for him to get past the field will be allowed. But Leif Hardy seems to be out of the race already, and Thomas Hinds does too. He was caught up on the opening lap, so as we commented at the time. But that will still leave us with 31 on the lead lap. Effectively a field reset here, as I say, with effectively a 20-minute race and the pit stop removed.
Yeah, everyone can get to the end, no problem. You could conceivably stop at the end of the first lap in one of these feature races and be able to get to the end. So it's just going to be an out-and-out sprint, much like it was in race one. You saw Brendan Bonacci stopped at the side of the circuit. He has let the drivers go, and whether or not he ends up all the way at the back remains to be seen, but he appears to be rolling again back in 27th, which I hope is where he was before that error was made.
He's having a bit of an argument with those back there as to actually where he was. I mean, if you thought you were a lap down, you wouldn't have made note of where you were in the field, I suppose. No. So this is going to take some sorting, and they're not agreeing here. Whoever this is, it's Mark Hilly. Don't expect Mark Hilly to back out for anything either, by the way. Not that he should either, but yeah, that's going to be sorted out. I think Bonacci might find himself in trouble nevertheless at the end today, but anyway, we'll see. 21 minutes to go then as we get back going again here, and it's going to be Ryan Bell in control of the field. Effectively, as I say, a 21-minute sprint race with the pit stop removed, with, of course, those opening preludes setting the field right now. It's green flag racing, and we're back underway again. Just to give you an idea, by the way, of the amount of guys who've had trouble so far, Brendan McConkey is the only one inside the top 14 who's actually lost places since the start of this race. So there's been a lot of moving backwards. Jack Soriano, one of those, although he gains another place back through turn number 2. He's back up to 16th. Lots of recovery required, though, for the likes of Rihanna, and also further back, Danny Davison and Mark Killy as well, who are a long way back.
Chris Farrow and Tristan McLaren, the biggest gainers in the field, up 20 positions each. So regardless of their lack of performance in qualifying, the fact is, around a track like this, survival is key, and they managed to stay out of trouble. Here comes the fight then behind our top 2, and in fact our top 2 going side by side as well. Eskandari versus McConkey for 3rd place. McConkey being squeezed to the inside there on the way into the penultimate corner. Now Eskandari is past him, but will Kieran Potter and Ryan Bell make this easy for him?
Well, let's wait and see here. Eskandari is going to find it. Oh, trouble! That's Thomas Turl off wide there, and he somehow saves it. He doesn't rejoin until they get to turn number 1, so there's not to interrupt the rest of the field there. But and he's still off here. He's still running wide, and he's got a meatball. That's why he's got a meatball flag. I didn't see him hit anything, I must say, but he has got a meatball now, and he's dropping down a long way.
Yeah, he did glance off the wall when he made his error. I think that's what gave him the mechanical black flag. Mark Healy also, unfortunately, getting a meatball. And so he's going to fall completely by the wayside as well. Two very competitive drivers today, but they won't necessarily have the results to show for it in race 2. Marcus Konitska on board here. There was a problem coming through Moss, making contact with the number 29 of...
Hilly again.
Yeah, that's what... That must have been what gave Hilly the mechanical black flag there.
So Hilly's in again. And his bad luck continues, really. Well, I guess some would say his first one was self-inflicted, but that one certainly wasn't. And he's not got a fast repair either anymore to repair that damage with. So it's minor points down there for Mark Hilly, who's just having a miserable, miserable season. Only a couple of finishes, only one finish inside the top 10 so far this season. And that will continue by the looks of things here today. Well, that is a shame for him. Meantime, the top 4 get away from the rest of the field, and say Eskandari is getting a bit of a taste of the Max Boost medicine at the moment, because Proline Esports are 3 of the top 4, and it's Max Boost who are outnumbered in for the first time I can remember.
Yeah, surrounded by the enemy, so to speak, is Sebastian Eskandari right now, with none of his teammates anywhere near him to help him out. So, yeah, maybe he does have a bit of an idea of what the likes of McConkey and Rihanna have felt in the past season or so. McConkey's going to get the slipstream on him and try around the outside at the final few corners here. Eskandari's going to use every bit of racetrack available, though. McConkey needs to be ahead at the apex to get the move done, and it looks like he's managed to do that. Eskandari knows that he's still got plenty of time in this race to try and tackle these guys, but it's going to be a real uphill battle for him.
Yeah, and this is going to only help the top 2 get away. I think this is not going to be a front 4 for too much longer, but instead of a front pairing of Kieran Potter and Ryan Bell, who might even be able to fight out for the win between themselves a little bit later in the final 5 minutes or so, but they've got a lot of work to do before they get to that point. A couple of cars off through the final corners that last lap as well, by the way. Alex Stevens, I think, was one of them. Thought I saw Chris Farrow off as well. This is Thomas Searle coming back again. I believe this is after his repair. And he goes for another spin through Moss Corner. Thankfully, he doesn't hit anything this time. But there's his spin. This is the Stevens and Farrow incident through turn 8. Stevens on the outside. Oh, Farrow gets loose. And he hits Stevens, and they're hard into the wall there at turn number 8. Well, it amazes me. We don't see that more often. But unfortunately, that's taken 2 cars out of the race, or out of the running at least for a top 10, which they were on the fringes of at the time. Bell, meantime, goes past Potter at the front of the field.
And that little exchange between the teammates has brought McConkey and Eskandari right into it again. It is pro line 1, 2, and 3 across the line. Amazing to see that Sam Lightowers and Jet Saragi haven't dropped back too far from these guys. Yes, it is around about 2.5 seconds, but if there's one coming together in this front group, then everyone behind them will likely take advantage. And it seems that Ryan Bell is not too comfortable in the lead there. He's having to cover his teammate a little.
I must say I was surprised they changed the lead there. Yeah, I was, because they were extending a gap over these two, and Eskandari sees that this is his chance. McConkey knows it too. Oh, and he squeezes nicely. That was trust from McConkey there in Sebastian Eskandari, but it's paid off for him. Absolutely paid off for him. And McConkey stays in front, and now Eskandari is going to have to come back at him now on the next straight. Outside line he'll have to go. Coming in towards turn 8 here, and he switches back into the slipstream again. Wants a little bit more toe before he gets into turn 8. Outside line as Potter and Bell exchange the lead again. That's definitely the better way round to run, with Potter in front of Bell, and they're going to be much further ahead of the McConkey and Eskandari here, because that's a late dive. It's side by side between the two. Eskandari hasn't made it work either, so I was about to say he has to make it work because he's lost time, but he's lost time and he still hasn't made the place.
Oh, he's trying at every single opportunity, though. You see him poking the nose out on every single straight. This is a real shame here for Eskandari. You know, he's completely lost touch with the top 2 now, but by the same token, an excellent defense from Brodie McConkey. He's doing his job perfectly, playing the team game here. He might have lost the lead, but regardless, he's still ensuring that potentially a Proline car can cross the line in first.
Well, absolutely, that seems to be the main goal here at the end of the day. Brodie McConkey has already had his podiums throughout the season. Two of them, in fact. See whether another one is on the cards, maybe. Alexi Watson's dropping down the field meantime as the latest driver to get a meatball flag indeed as well. So it's just going from bad to worse for some of those down the back end of the field here. As Saragi and Light Owlers move side by side. These guys battling for fourth, which is a big surprise really, compared to what you'd expect from these two. Both up more than 10 places. And Light Owlers stays in front of Saragi there for fifth, but there's just no coherent chase of the front four at all here. The field is just decimated by what's already happened here today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a case of one or two car battles further back and gaps just increasing all the way through with the way things are going. The front four fight is really where it's at. Thomas Searle, meanwhile, ever since his mechanical black flag, there's been issue after issue, and again, he gets loose across the curb in the final corner, stopped on the exit. One of the cars behind having to take major avoiding action. Hopefully, Searle can at least keep it on track towards the end and see the checkered. It wouldn't be nice for him to get a non-finish there. Watson sending, it looked like, Rihanna and... potentially one of the Max Boost cars wide. I couldn't quite see the livery there, but yeah, it seems like no one is safe in this field at the moment. I always knew Mosport was going to throw up a race like this.
Well, yeah, it definitely was Rihanna. I think it might have been Monroe who's behind, just based on who's around at the moment. I don't think the field has changed too much since then, but it's now a top 10 for Jackson Rihanna at least, which is better than it was before, but still not ideal, and this would still become a drop round. And again, we've got to talk, I think, about Kieran Potter again here, because he is continuing to extend his championship lead. He didn't lose too many points in race one. He was there or thereabouts, although he didn't win it. He was there or thereabouts. If he goes on to win here, which you'd think from a pro-line perspective actually would make complete sense, then this is a big lead heading into the second half of the season. He already held absolutely massive 74 points over the rest of the field coming into tonight, and if he goes halfway with more than 80 points, well over 80 points, probably closer to 100 at the end of this round of the championship, he could be very difficult to catch in the final four rounds.
Yeah, he certainly could, but Eskandari's going to have a go there. He moves back past Brodie McConkey. And this might just be what Eskandari needs to try and chip away at that championship lead. A poor exit from the final corner, though, makes them lose touch with Potter and Bell once again. I'm sure it's only a matter of seconds before McConkey is back past him once more, unless Eskandari can give McConkey a taste of his own defensive medicine. But you know, you're right. It is an important round for Kieran Potter and for Eskandari as well. You know, Potter has a championship lead to protect. Eskandari knows that he's on the back foot after missing 2 rounds in a row due to real-life racing commitments. He needs to be right on it and taking points away from everyone he can.
I look at the closest contenders to Potter as well, just to reaffirm the point. One of them's Brodie McConkey, who's a teammate anyway, but Jackson Rihanna is set to have his drop score taken from this round. Tom Donohue's had 2 difficult races so far, though he's in ninth for this race. His sprint race was pretty tricky, and Danny Davidson's had trouble earlier on in this race as well, although he has recovered to 16th in the meantime, so his rivals are all getting away, and look at that, Eskandari overtaken by McConkey again. It's 1 versus 3, and in this scenario, there's only one winner. Even when you're Sebastian Eskandari, he goes to the inside. There might have been contact there. And Eskandari is through on McConkey, but at what cost here with the stewards? We'll find out in a moment.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a desperate dive from Eskandari, if I'm honest. It's a move that you see a lot at this circuit. You get on the power earlier, carry it through, run wide at the penultimate corner. You can dive up the inside at the last turn, but you need your rival to know what you're doing, and I don't think McConkey was expecting Eskandari to go for that.
No, absolutely. Let's see it again here on board with Eskandari. As you said, it is done round here. There's the dive. He's not really that far alongside, to be honest. And Eskandari, I think, will land himself in some trouble for that. Speaking of penalties, by the way, should just run through the ones that have been dished out for this race so far. Matthew Vince, 10 seconds in qualifying for impeding. Same for Thomas Searle. Sam Morton's got a 20-second time penalty for towing without permission in this race, and 2 radio warnings as well. So he keeps chatting, I think, and he keeps getting warnings for that. Mark Healy has also got a 10-second time penalty for his incident with Dave Davison there, which brought out the safety car, the virtual safety car of this race. Still plenty to look at here because, I mean, Mark Healy on lap 5 is also being looked into at the moment, so they'll get to that one in quite a while. But, oh, and there you go. I think that might be another one dished out there. Not sure. Maybe that's the one I've just read out, but anyway. They are getting through it, race control. We'll find out in quite a while, though, whether Eskandari is going to be penalised. Let's just imagine it's 5 or 10 seconds, though, because it wasn't a major incident judged on how race control have been judging things so far. Eskandari's next focus, surely, has got to be pulling 5 seconds over the group behind and then trying to get 10 seconds. He's not going to get 10 seconds, but get as many seconds as possible so that you lose as little time as possible, because to be honest, if I was him, I'd accept the fact that he probably is going to get a penalty for that.
Yeah, I'd already be driving as if I have the penalty, and just at least try to stay with Bell and Potter, try and extend the gap over the rest of the field. This is a nice battle that's going on at the moment here. Anthony Bate, Miguel Costa-Texeira and Tom Donoghue all fighting over the 4th, 5th, 6th places. Ryan Borg at the moment in the midst of this fight with Tristan McLaren, has Angus Milne just behind him too. They are all pushing as hard as they dare through these final corners. I think if there was an incident limit, there'd be more than a few drivers that are going to be coming a cropper of it shortly, because it seems the grass on the exit of the final corner is very popular at the moment.
Yeah, I noticed that in the sprint race as well. I'm not sure what it is, but it does seem to be pretty popular for whatever reason. But yeah, nobody has reached that so far. As down in towards turn 9, Dan Ackland, we ride on board with him towards Moss Corner. There's a number of groups around at the moment, by the way. The 2 leaders, Bell and Potter, are worth just leaving until the end of the race, to be honest, because they're not going to fight until the very end. They're just going to extend their lead. But the battle for 4th place has attracted some new participants now, with Sam Lightowlers and Jet Saragi continuing to fight.
Oh, Saragi!
Yeah,
huge crash!
Well, the battle for 4th, unfortunately, it hasn't decimated the group by any means, but Jet Saragi is no longer a part of it. Sam Lightowlers gets in front, and yeah, Jet Saragi is gone.
Yeah, and it was netcode contact, unfortunately. Lightowlers pulling off, excuse me, a very impressive move around the outside of the 3rd last corner. But yeah, unfortunately, I think what we're about to see if we go to the replay shortly is Jet Saragi having probably the wildest ride of his sim racing career. We'll keep our eyes peeled, though, on the battle here with Tom Donoghue, trying to defend from Brodie McConkey, who's making a nice recovery. That's some good momentum around the outside of Moss, and position regained there. So now McConkey, he just needs to make his way past his teammate there. This is the contact then. Saragi once again round the outside, and it looked like an all right move, but right there at the turning point, that's netcode contact, and super hard contact with the wall. That car in real life would be destroyed, and frankly, I'd be worried for the driver.
Well, in the sim world, it's pretty destroyed too. Just wheel-to-wheel contact, although, as I say, a bit of netcode looks like. Let's see. Yeah. Well, they might have hit each other anyway, but we're definitely wheel-to-wheel being simulated there, and that's put Saragi in the wall hard. Well, Anthony Bate is right in behind Lightowlers now, and so the group has split off. McConkey, Donoghue, Miguel Costa-Texeira, and also Exxon Riada involved in this, so some of the top names trying to recover points back here in the late stages of this race, trying to limit the damage that Kieran Potter is once again doing to them.
Jackson Rihanna trying up the inside of Miguel Costa-Texeira. Texeira, the silver class champion from last season. And so, or actually in contention, sorry, for the championship last season. And he's continuing his nice form this season, up ahead of them. Now Sam Lightowlers has more company. Anthony Bate, who's the current leader of the silver class in this race. Looks like he's going to be taking things easy into the final couple of corners. He knows that there's still 4 laps to go, and they're not under a huge amount of threat from McConkey and Donoghue at the moment. Then I don't think he's going to be seeing too much hard racing from McConkey. They are both teammates at Proline after all. But still plenty of action to come in the final 4.5 minutes of this race. Trying around the outside of turn 2 almost never works, but you got to put your car somewhere.
Well, indeed. And Light Alice now has that group much closer in behind him again now, after McConkey and Donoghue rejoined. So 4 minutes to go here. 3. Oh, he's got off! He's got off through Moss! Oh. And Light Alice has made the classic mistake through Moss corner. He's gone too wide through the first part. He's spun on the grass, and that's the end of it. He's towed back to pit lane already, and he might get in trouble for that too, but that is the end of it. He's so frustrated with himself, he's pretty much left immediately.
That's a shame for Light Alice. That was his best performance in some time. He could have had a top 5 at least for his consideration, but that's not going to happen now. It's a really typical Mosport error, really. That crest of the hill through Moss sends you unstable if you carry the brakes a little too far, and this is how it happened. Right there, when the car bottoms out, that transferred the weight in a bad way for Light Alice, and you could already see that there was very little chance of him preserving a result from there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that is a real shame for Sam Light Alice, who spins to the back of the field and indeed out of this race with only 4 minutes to go. Well, who's going to finish 4th in his place? Bronny McConkey has gotten back to 4th now, even after he was spun by Eskandari earlier. He's recovered to a place where he might have been able to finish anyway. But Eskandari is quite close to pulling that 10-second advantage. We still don't know what his penalty is going to be, because that incident is just they're doing the one before that now. So Dion O'Neill's incident now is just being looked at. All the penalties that are coming, by the way, Sam Mort's been talking on the radio again, so he's been muted. Dion O'Neill's already got a 10-second penalty for an incident with Scott Bartine. We'll see whether there's something else to come from this in a moment. But 7.5 seconds nearly now up to Eskandari, who, as I say, is very, very close to getting that 10 seconds and effectively putting that penalty into sort of meaning nothing in the end, which I think is what's most likely here.
Yeah, race control obviously having a lot of other incidents to work through, and maybe giving extra consideration to the contact between Eskandari and McConkey. But 2 minutes remain, and we've still got plenty of positions to figure out. Jackson Rihanna on the back of Tom Donoghue here. They still have McConkey and Bate up ahead, but Rihanna will want to make a recovery from what's been another difficult night for him. It wasn't too long before this that we saw him wedged into Craig Edwards at the start of this race. So you never know. His fortunes might just turn around in these last 2 laps or so. Our leaders are about to come across the line, and it will be the start of the penultimate lap.
Indeed. So we are going to get those extra laps in there. Thought the virtual safety car would put this race down to just 23 laps, but we will get the 24th in. How are these two going to resolve this? I mean, from a pure championship perspective, it would make absolute sense to give Kieran Potter the victory here. But Ryan Bell, to be fair, is only 143 points behind, which sounds like a lot, but it isn't really in this series with more than half the season remaining. And teams are often shy to actually instigate team orders or make it look like they are. So I do wonder how hard they're going to fight for this, although I somewhat suspect that the cat and mouse we saw in the previous race for second is not going to happen quite in the same way. They're going to continue on at a decent pace here, but are they going to coordinate a Kieran Potter victory, or are they going to let them fight here on the last lap?
That is the question. Yeah, it's always a bit of a mystery to me whether or not teams engage in team orders. There are some teams that are very clear that they almost never employ team orders. Success for Jackson Rihanna in the short term. He's gotten past Tom Donoghue, and now with 1 lap to go, has a chance to potentially finish 4th on the road here today. We've got to wait and see if he pulls it off.
Absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things to settle here then. The battle for fourth, although that looks like it's gone the way of McConkey. Anthony Pate has got to hold on to fifth here, and what about the race victory as well? Rihanna to the outside before Moss Corner gets in the inside by the time they're on the brakes, and he's going to go through on the inside line into fifth position. Meantime, half an hour gone, and the end of the race is near. Ryan Bell defends to the inside line, but Potter to the outside is going to rip round the outside here, surely. Bell's still just about alongside. The teammates definitely can't make contact with each other, but they are going to fight it out towards the end, but it's going to be yet another victory for Kieran Potter. His fourth victory in 6 races at the start of this season. Kieran Potter wins at Mosport. And whoa, no! Jackson Rihanna and Anthony Pate have both come into contact here. Rihanna, who was leading the overall points without drop rounds coming into tonight, has had a disastrous round. He finishes 24th in the feature after contact with Anthony Pate, who's not going to get to the finish line either.
Oh man, it looked like 3 wide coming into the third last corner there. Bate was on the outside, Tom Donohue moving to the inside, and unfortunately 2 of the competitors came together, and that was all she wrote. There's the contact, and my God, Rihanna evidently getting thrown out of the virtual world.
Wow. That was quite spectacular.
Yeah.
At the end of the race. He disappeared almost in a way that suggests he'd hit an instant limit or something.
Yeah.
You know, that would be weird. I think it is more likely that he flew out of the bounds of the racetrack. But it almost looked like he'd had an instant tow from an incident. But anyway, these are the race results anyway. Proline winning 1-2 with Kieran Potter taking another victory. Ryan Bell in second. Sebastian Eskandari will finish third on the road. We'll wait to see whether he gets a penalty or not. It is a penalty, and it's 10 seconds just come in now for Sebastian Eskandari, so he will drop behind Brady McConkey and Tom Donohue, who round out the top 5. Miko Costa Texera wins in silver in front of Jack Munro, who was gold, splitting him from Tristan McLaren, who makes a great run through the field for the second race in a row. 26 places gained this time though, with Ryan Borg and Dave Davison rounding out the top 10 overall. Tom McKinns was 11th in front of Dan Ackland in that group. Next group was headed by Chris Little in front of Madeline McGee and Brendan Bonacci, who eventually figured out where he was in the safety car queue to get into 15th for the end of the race. Angus Moon, Alexei Watson, Matthew Vince, Marcus Knitska and Alex Stevens rounded out the top 20. 21st to Scott Bartan and Thomas Surley with the last ones on the lead lap. Anthony Bate was 1 lap down, Jackson Rihanna 2 with that late crash. Gianna Senese as well. Sam Lighthowlers retired late on, as we saw with that spin. Jet Saragi and Dion O'Neill both 7 laps down. Craig Edwards and Chris Farrow both 11 laps down. There's Sam Moore, Mark Hilly, Leif Hardy and Thomas Hinz, who all retired from that race. Let's have a chat to Kieran Potter, shall we? The race winner tonight for race 2 anyway. Mosport. Kieran, congratulations on another race victory in this series. 4 race victories now in the last 5 races. How pleased are you to be able to do that along with your teammate as well, Ryan Bell, at the front of the field, and how coordinated was that finish, or were you let free to battle with one another at the very end there?
I mean, yeah, it was good. It's nice having a teammate up there to work with and just manage the second half of the race when we pulled a gaff. But yeah, no, I don't think he fought me too hard for the win on the last lap, even though you could argue that he probably deserved it. But it's nice to see him finally get a result.
And for yourself, you've now got more than 100 points, I think, of a championship lead when you apply the drop round at halfway in this season. Now, considering that sounds like an awful long way, but considering there's 100 points for 1 race victory in a feature race or an endurance round, that can feel like a small margin. Just how pleased are you, though, to have extended such a lead in the opening 4 rounds of this championship?
Oh, I mean, it's nice. It's a bit easier approaching races when you've got a nice gap to lean on, but I mean, anything's possible. All it takes is one poor result for anyone to be right back in it, so just keep going at it round by round, really.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing you again next week, Kieran, but for now, congrats on a win in race 2 tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kieran Potter, the winner in race two here tonight. Ryan Bell gets in second place, so just in behind Kieran there. Ryan, welcome and good to have you with us. How were you feeling on that last lap there as Kieran got the inevitable slipstream on the back straight and went straight past you? He just said you probably deserved to win that race, but didn't fight you too hard for it in the end. Is that an accurate representation in your opinion?
Oh, I think Kieran was a bit more consistent than me on this race. I kind of hung in there on the slipstream, but I'm just happy to finally get a result on the board, to be honest. I've had a bit of a rough season, so yeah, I'm really happy.
Absolutely, he says it's been a rough season, but at the start of today, you were still in the top 10 overall in total points. What do you hope you can get from the second half of the season in that case, if the first half of the season has been difficult by your standards?
Oh, I just hope to hopefully crawl back to the top 5, maybe. I know I have the pace, I just need to get the consistency going, and then we'll be there.
Well, congrats on a podium in race 2 here tonight, Ryan, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Ryan Bell, second place in race 2 after a difficult first race and a difficult start to the season in his words as well. Brodie McConkey joins us for another podium as well, third of the season with third place this time around. Brodie, congratulations on a podium, obviously corrected after Sebastian Escandara drops 10 seconds behind with that penalty, and that of course was an incident with yourself. Just tell us about the contact from your perspective.
Yeah, nothing too pleasant to say really. I think he was just a bit aggressive the whole race, so it just needs to learn a bit of racecraft and just settle down. That's not really a passing opportunity. I don't know why he stuck the nose in there, just a bit eager I think, but deserved penalty, and no hard feelings, but yeah, we got P3 in the end. It's just a shame that it took away a chance to fight for another victory, so, or a victory, so yeah. A little bit disappointed, but glad to still wind up on the podium. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, I could have been in the fence a lot harder, so yeah, I think the end result was a lot better than what it could have been.
Yeah, certainly after the contact. How pleasing is it from a team perspective the way Proline have gone this opening part of the season? We don't talk about team standings maybe as much as we should in these broadcasts, but coming into tonight you were 105 points ahead of the rest. I mean, a 1-2-3 finish in a feature round is not going to do that any harm by any means. So how pleased are you with the general way that Proline have started this season?
Yeah, it's really huge for the team, coming from just a few drivers last season. In the off season we sort of recruited a few more very fast drivers and wanted to give Max Boost a real good run for their money, and I think we're really showing really doing that at the moment and establishing ourselves as the top team to be running with. And also we've got, you know, Miguel in the silver win as well, so we've got a full Proline podium lockout, which is really awesome. Adam, team owner, will be stoked about that.
Yeah, absolutely rightfully so as well. Brodie, congrats on a third podium of the season, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. That is Brodie McConkey, third place here, as I mentioned, third podium of the season. Race 1, by the way, was fourth place, so pretty good even set of results across the board. In the silver class, Miguel Costa Texeira takes the victory with a sixth place finish overall. Miguel, welcome in. Good to have you with us once again. A feature race victory for you tonight in the silver category, but a crazy group towards the end as well you're involved in there. Just tell us about those last laps as you were hanging on for the silver class victory, but also seeing overall places change around you.
Yeah, thanks, Ewan, and thanks the team. It's nice to be in here. It's taken me a couple of rounds after my silver championship last season to get back up here. But yeah, look, it was pretty chaotic. Like we knew coming into this round that the slipstream was going to be really critical, and so we managed to sort of work together as a team in qualifying. And big thanks to Surly and Bate for getting me up to P7 in qual. So that really helped me out, being able to start at the front, because in the sprint I was out the back, and you know what it's like out the back. It's just sheep stations. So that really helped us, and then we sort of, the three of us worked as a pack in the race. Unfortunately, Searle had an incident, but then Bate, you know, got past me. I had a bit of diffuser damage, and yeah, look, it was just chaos, and you know, we were just trying to manage it and make sure that we brought the best result back for Proline, whether that was a Bate win or a me win, and then, you know, the boys for gold wins. But look, it was pretty chaotic, and I felt for Bate there on the last lap, seeing him go tumbling in the air, because obviously he's in the championship hunt, where I'm a lot further back from my terrible first couple of rounds.
Well, as you say, prior to tonight, you hadn't finished inside the top 20, as I'm sure you're aware, but a couple of occasions 13th and a 6th place will do you a lot of good this time around. As you say, you've had a difficult start to the season. You're only on 20 points with the drop round added so far this season, coming into round 4, which is quite low. However, you'll know as well as anybody, but that is not an unrecoverable situation, especially in the silver class, because I don't think you or Alexia Watson, who ended up fighting for the title, had very many points at all after the first half of the season last season, if I can remember correctly, either. So just how has it been sort of getting through this opening part of the season, knowing that obviously reigning champion, target on your back, and it's not been quite as strong of a start to this season as it was finished to the last?
Yeah, well, I mean, you haven't mentioned it on the broadcast at all, Ewan. But
sorry.
No, it has been a really bad start. You know, like Spa, I really was frustrated with myself because I pride myself on as a wet weather driver. So to bin it the way I did it there, and not capitalize on a result there pissed me off. Miami, I didn't have much practice for that due to some other commitments. So yeah, look, it's going to be a tough run home. I'm going to miss Monza as I'm going to the real life Bathurst Bilbao, and then I come back the day of Adelaide, so I'll have pretty much zero prep for that. So look, it's going to be a tough run, but yeah, as you say, look, last season I only won with 180 points, and I probably got 40 or 50 points tonight. So anything's really possible. The Silver Championship's always a really wide open one, and that's why I enjoy being in this class. Is you can have a couple of tough rounds and you really race different people every week. So look, it's still on, but I do think that Bate's probably got a better chance at it, and we'll, as Proline, we'll try and support him to get through. But of course, we'll see what we can do. Me, Thomas, and myself and Bate on the silver side.
Indeed, more than 70 points tonight for yourself. I can't promise to stop mentioning the starts of the season, but congratulations on getting more than 70 points tonight, nevertheless. And thanks for coming to chat to us at the end tonight.
No worries. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. Cheers.
Thanks very much. That is Migo Costa-Texeira, who finishes in 6th place overall, but more importantly in the silver class victory for the feature race from Mosport here tonight. Well, that was everything we'd expected, really, Reese. It was a good round to this championship, and this is what we'd expected to see as well. A Kieran Potter championship lead numbering over 100 points. In fact, it's over 110. Now, a couple of things to note in this. The fact that Tom Donahue and Jackson Rihanna, I think, will both end up using their drop round, and so they maybe not in the case of Donahue actually, but certainly in the case of Rihanna, and so they will be a few more points bumped further up. I think they might well be 3rd and 4th rather than Eskandari, who might be 5th, but we'll have finalised point standings when we get to the start of next week's race. But it's Kieran Potter's day once again, and an entertaining day for us in the commentary box.
Yeah, no shortage of action today, and I think a few drivers who may be a little unhappy with how things have gone for them today, but that is the first half of the season concluded. We've still got 4 rounds remaining at 4 fantastic tracks. Next week we'll be going to Monza for a feature 45-minute format race. It's going to be another high-speed, low-margin for error run for these drivers, but fortunately a few more slower, medium speed corners, so that might bring the action down a little bit, maybe simmer the tempers as well.
Well, yeah, let's see about that going in towards the next round of this championship. Going to be very interesting to watch. Super Formula Lights racing from Monza, indeed, next week. 45-minute race coming your way. Same time, same place. We will be live on TrackSpotTV with that. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight for round 4 of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated. Big thanks to Gripline and Everything Simulated for being on board this season and helping make everything possible here in this championship. That's it from us. So from Mosport, I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Reece Gardner with George Cook behind the cameras of this broadcast here tonight. We'll all be back in 7 days' time, same time, same place, with the Monza round of this championship. I hope you can join us then. But from all of us, in the meantime, it's goodbye.